My pregnant wife became obsessed with the gym, and somewhere between self-care and fitness, she found herself a gymbro who treated her like his partner instead of me. I thought I was being paranoid, until I realized she wasn't just training for her body, she was training for a life that didn't include me. I'm Evan, 31M, and my wife, Lila, 29F, is 6 months pregnant with our first child. We've been together for 5 years, married for 2, and for the most part I thought we were solid. Lila's the type of person who lights up every room she walks into, confident, loud, and full of energy. She's the one who pushes people to do better, to be better. That's part of what drew me to her. So when she told me she wanted to stay active during her pregnancy, I was all for it. It'll be good for the baby, she said. Healthy mom, healthy child. It made sense. We even looked up prenatal workout plans together, and she promised to take it slow. But slow lasted about a week. Soon Lila was spending more and more time at the gym. 2 hours turned into 3, 3 into 4. She'd leave after breakfast and sometimes come back past dinner saying she lost track of time. She'd laugh when I asked her to ease up. "Babe, I'm pregnant, not broken," she'd joke. At first, I didn't think much of it. I admired her dedication. She's always been the kind of person who doesn't do anything halfway. But as her belly grew, so did my concern. She started skipping meals, pushing herself harder, and talking about getting her body back before the baby even comes. That's when she started mentioning him. Derek says my form's improving. Derek says this stretch is great for lower back pain. Derek's girlfriend used this same routine and looked amazing postpartum. At first, I thought Derek was just her trainer. I even thanked him once when I picked her up from the gym. He was polite, tall, one of those guys who always looks like he just stepped out of a fitness ad. But the way Lila talked about him, it felt off. Too familiar. Too personal. One night I was sitting on the couch scrolling through Netflix when Lila came home, flushed and smiling. She dropped her bag, grabbed her water bottle and said, "Guess what? Derek said I'm his strongest client right now." I forced a smile. "That's great, honey." But she caught my tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "I'm just a little worried." "You've been overdoing it lately. You barely rest," she sighed, rolling her eyes. "Evan, this is important to me. I'm not just working out. I'm preparing my body for childbirth." "I get that," I said, trying to stay calm, "but maybe balance it a bit." "You're out 5 hours a day. That's not normal, Lila." Her face hardened. "So now you're tracking my time?" That stung. "No, I just..." She grabbed her bag again, muttering, "I'm going to shower." When the bathroom door clicked shut, I just sat there staring at the floor. The woman I married was slipping away, replaced by someone who seemed to need validation from everywhere but home. It didn't help that our intimacy had practically vanished. She'd stopped wanting to cuddle, avoided kisses, and when I tried to talk about the baby, names, nursery colors, future plans, and she'd changed the subject. One night, around midnight, I got up for water and realized she wasn't in bed. I found her in the living room, sitting on the couch with her phone, smiling at something on the screen. "Everything okay?" I asked. She jumped. "Yeah, just couldn't sleep." She locked her phone quickly, face flushed. I didn't press it then. I told myself it was hormones, stress, maybe even loneliness from me working late. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. A few days later, I decided to surprise her at the gym, maybe grab lunch afterward. When I walked in, the first thing I saw was Lila and Derek in the corner. He was spotting her as she squatted, hands close to her hips, too close. She was laughing at something he said, head thrown back like she hadn't laughed that freely with me in months. I stood there for a minute before she noticed me. Her face shifted immediately, from laughter to guilt. "Evan, what are you doing here?" "I thought I'd surprise you," I said, forcing a smile. "Oh, we're almost done." She looked at Derek. "Right?" Derek wiped his hands and nodded, barely meeting my eyes. "Yeah, she's killing it. Lila's one of my most dedicated clients." Something about the way he said clients made my stomach twist. I nodded and left without saying anything else. That night, she was quiet. Too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "I don't like when you come to the gym unannounced." "What?" I asked. "It makes me uncomfortable," she said. "You showing up like that. It's controlling." "Controlling?" I repeated, stunned. "Lila, I just wanted to see you." She crossed her arms. "I'm allowed to have my own space, Evan. "You don't need to check on me." I didn't respond, because the truth was she was right. I didn't need to check on her. But something deep in my gut told me I should, and over the next few weeks, that gut feeling only got worse. She started dressing differently, tighter leggings, cropped tops, all the stuff she used to tease other women for wearing. She'd take gym selfies that looked more like thirst traps, posting captions like "staying strong" and tagging Derek's account. Every time I asked about it, she brushed it off. "You're overthinking. Derek's just a friend." But then she started coming home smelling like men's cologne, not mine, and that was when I realized whatever was happening between them, it wasn't just about fitness anymore. It was about connection, one I wasn't part of anymore. After that day at the gym, something shifted between us, not just in how we acted, but in the way silence filled our house. It wasn't the comfortable kind anymore. It was heavy, thick, like a wall between us. Every conversation felt like we were walking on eggshells, careful not to touch whatever it was that had started festering in the background. Lila kept going to the gym, sometimes even earlier now. "Morning energy is better for the baby," she said once, packing her bag at 6 a.m., but I knew that was a lie. She hated mornings, always had. The more distant she became, the harder I tried to stay connected. I cooked her favorite meals, rubbed her feet when she complained about cramps, even started reading books about fatherhood just to make her smile. But she barely noticed. It was like she was somewhere else entirely. Then one Saturday, her best friend Tessa came over. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I overheard them talking in the living room. Tessa said, "You've been acting weird lately. You never hang out anymore." Lila laughed softly. "I've just been focused on myself." "You wouldn't get it. Focused?" Tessa said. "You're 6 months pregnant, not training for the Olympics. You barely post about the baby, but you post about Derek every other day. Are you sure you're not catching feelings?" My heart dropped. There was a pause. Then Lila said quietly, "He just understands me, Tess. He makes me feel like myself again. Not just someone's wife or someone's mom-to-be." I froze, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles went white. I shouldn't have been listening, but how could I not? Tessa's voice softened. "Lila, that's emotional cheating. You know that, right?" Lila scoffed. "You don't understand. Evan's been so distant. He just exists. Derek actually listens. He makes me feel seen." I felt my chest tighten, that familiar sting of helplessness spreading through me. I wasn't distant, I was careful. Careful not to push too hard. Careful not to make her feel controlled. Careful not to lose her faster than I already was. When Tessa left, I pretended I hadn't heard anything. But later that night, I brought it up anyway. "Do you ever feel like you're pulling away from me?" I asked quietly. She looked up from her phone, frowning. "What do you mean? You don't talk to me anymore. You spend all your time at the gym. When was the last time we did something together that wasn't about your workouts?" She sighed, setting her phone down. "Evan, I'm trying to keep myself healthy. I'm growing a human. Forgive me if I don't have energy to entertain your insecurities." "Insecurities?" I repeated. "Yes," she said, sharper now. "You're jealous because I have a life outside of you." "I'm not jealous," I said, though the words sounded hollow even to me. "I'm scared, Lila. You're different." "You're pregnant," she cut in, standing up. "I'm pregnant, Evan. My hormones are all over the place. My body doesn't even feel like mine anymore. And when I'm at the gym, I feel normal again. Is that so wrong?" I wanted to say no. But the truth was, it wasn't just about the gym anymore. It was about him, and she knew it. That night, when she went to bed, I sat in the dark, scrolling through her Instagram. Every new photo had Derek in the background somewhere. Not always obvious, sometimes just a reflection in a mirror, or his tagged account in the caption. But he was always there. One post in particular hit me hard. It was a picture of her midlift, face glowing, captioned, "Find someone who pushes you to be stronger every day." And Derek had commented, "You're unstoppable, Lila." She'd replied with a heart emoji. That was it. That was enough. The next day, I went to the gym while she was there. I didn't announce myself this time. I just wanted to know. When I walked in, I spotted them immediately, tucked into a back corner, laughing about something on Derek's phone. He leaned close, whispering something that made her blush. Then he reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My stomach dropped. Before I could even process it, Mark, the gym manager, saw me standing there. He knew me from before when I used to come with Lila occasionally. His eyes widened and he subtly shook his head like a warning. I ignored it and walked straight over. "Lila," I said, my voice flat. She jumped, spinning around. "Evan, what the hell are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I said. My eyes flicked to Derek, who looked more annoyed than guilty. "I'm training," she said quickly. "You're making a scene." "Am I?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're getting a lot more than training." Derek stepped forward, hands up. "Hey man, calm down. Lila and I are just friends." "Friends," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "Yeah, that's what she said about every guy she swore wasn't interested." Lila's face turned red. "You're embarrassing me." "Good," I said. "Maybe you should feel a little embarrassed." The tension in the air was suffocating. A few people had stopped mid-workout, pretending not to watch. Lila grabbed her bag and stormed off toward the locker room without another word. Derek just shrugged and muttered, "You're way out of line, man. I left before I did something stupid." That night, Lila didn't come home. She sent a single text, "Staying at Tessa's. Need space, I didn't sleep." I just sat on the couch staring at my phone, scrolling through our old photos. The laughter, the vacations, the early ultrasound images, all of it felt like someone else's life now. The next morning, I found a message from Tessa waiting for me. "She's safe. Don't make this worse. She needs time," but time was the last thing I wanted. Because I knew, deep down, that once someone starts finding comfort in another person, time doesn't fix it. It only cements it. And I was terrified that by the time she came home, she wouldn't be coming back to me. 3 days. That's how long Lila stayed away. No calls, no texts, just silence. The kind that drives you insane because your mind starts filling in the blanks for you. Every hour that passed, I pictured her with him, laughing, talking, maybe crying on his shoulder while he told her what a strong woman she was for walking away from her controlling husband. By the 3rd night, I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid, desperate husband, but I was done pretending everything was fine. I needed answers, so I drove to Tessa's place. When she opened the door, she looked startled. "Evan, is she here?" I asked. Tessa hesitated. "She was, she sighed. "Evan, please don't make a scene. She just needed space. Things have been tense, and where is she, Tessa?" I said again, my voice sharper now. Her eyes flicked away. "That was all I needed. She's not here," she said quietly. "She left about an hour ago." "Let me guess," I said bitterly. "To the gym?" Tessa didn't answer. That was enough. When I pulled into the gym's parking lot, my stomach dropped. Lila's car was there. It was almost 10 p.m., and the place was half dark except for a few lights still on inside. I parked and sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. Then I saw them. Through the front glass wall, in the stretching area, Lila and Derek. She was sitting on the mat, laughing at something he said. He was kneeling beside her, his hand resting casually on her thigh. Not in a trainer-helping-client way, in a comfortable way. Familiar. I felt something in me snap. I got out of the car, pushed open the door, and walked straight toward them. The air in the room shifted as soon as Lila saw me. Her face drained of color. "Evan," she said quietly, "what are you doing here?" I looked between them, forcing myself to keep my voice calm. "I could ask you the same thing. Here's 10 at night, Lila." Derek stood up, his expression hardening. "She's an adult, man. She can work out whenever she wants." I ignored him. "Is that what this is, Lila? A workout?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Derek stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Maybe you should leave. You're making her uncomfortable." I turned to him, something dark rising in my chest. "You don't get to talk to me about what makes my wife uncomfortable." He smirked, that smug, dismissive kind of smirk that only made things worse. "Ex-wife soon enough if you keep this up." Before I even realized what I was doing, I grabbed him by the collar. "Say that again." He shoved my hands off. "Touch me again and I'll call security." Lila stepped between us, tears welling in her eyes. "Stop, both of you." The sound of her voice snapped me back to reality. I stepped back, chest heaving. "Just tell me the truth, Lila. Are you sleeping with him?" Her silence said everything. "Lila," I said again, my voice breaking this time. "Just tell me." She looked down, her hands trembling. "It wasn't supposed to happen." The words hit harder than any punch ever could. I laughed, the kind of broken, bitter laugh that doesn't sound human. "Wow, that's all you have to say." She started crying. "It's not what you think. It happened once." I was scared. I was confused. "Stop," I said, my voice cracking. "I weren't confused, Lila. You were bored. You wanted attention, and he gave it to you." "Don't say that," she whispered. "It's true, isn't it?" I said. "I've been here, trying to build a life, a future, a family, while you've been sneaking around with some guy from your gym who makes you feel seen." Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I said quietly. "And not just me. You're 6 months pregnant, Lila. You were supposed to protect our baby, our family. What kind of mother risks everything for a thrill?" That made her flinch. "Don't you dare question me as a mother. Then start acting like one," I shouted before I could stop myself. The whole room went silent. Even Derek looked uneasy now. Lila's voice shook when she finally spoke. "I think you should leave." I stared at her, at the woman I'd built my world around, and I realized she was gone. Whatever we had, whatever we were, it was over. I turned toward Derek. "You can have her," I said. "But when this falls apart, and it will, just remember you helped destroy something real." He didn't say anything, just stood there looking smug again like he'd already won. When I walked out of the gym that night, the air felt cold and sharp. I sat in my car for almost 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, shaking. I wanted to scream, cry, punch something, but nothing came out. When I finally drove home, the house felt emptier than it ever had. I went straight to the nursery. Half-finished, tiny clothes folded neatly on the dresser, and I broke down, because no matter how angry I was, part of me still loved her. And that was the cruelest part of it all. The next morning I got a text from her. "I'm sorry. I'm staying with Tessa for a while. Please don't contact me until I'm ready to talk. There was no 'I love you.' Now we'll figure this out. Just distance." And for the first time since this all began, I realized I wasn't losing her. I'd already lost her months ago. I was just the last one to notice. The days after that confrontation felt like a blur, a sick kind of limbo where everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. Lila stayed gone and I stayed home, surrounded by all the reminders of her. Her shoes by the door, her half-used shampoo in the shower, the baby crib we built together one weekend when everything still felt hopeful. I told myself I was angry, and I was. But beneath the anger was something worse. Grief. The kind you only feel when you realize the person you love is still alive, just not yours anymore. A week passed before she reached out again. "Lila, we need to talk. Please don't yell. Shall come by tomorrow." I stared at that text for a long time before typing a single word. Okay, the next morning she showed up. She looked tired, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes. The glow she once had completely gone. She didn't look like the woman I married. She looked like someone who'd been hollowed out. She sat on the couch, hands shaking slightly, while I stood across from her. "Not trusting myself to get too close, Evan," she said quietly. "I don't know how to start." "Start with the truth," I said. She nodded slowly, eyes down. "You were right. I crossed lines with Derek. It wasn't just the one time I told you about. It happened more than once." The words hit like a knife twisting in my gut, but I stayed silent. She continued, voice trembling. "It started emotionally. He was just there. When I felt lonely, when I felt ugly, when I felt like my body wasn't mine anymore, he made me feel seen. I know that's not an excuse, but that's how it began. And then one night after training, it got physical." I clenched my jaw. "And you kept seeing him after that?" She nodded. I told myself it was a mistake, that I'd stop. But I didn't. He made me feel powerful again, like I was still me, not just a pregnant woman waiting for life to change. I thought I could control it, but I couldn't. I laughed, and a cold, bitter sound. "Control? You were sleeping with another man while carrying my child, Lila. You didn't lose control, you made choices." She flinched. "I know, and I hate myself for it. Do you?" I asked quietly. "Or do you just hate that you got caught?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I ended it, I swear. The night you came to the gym, that was me telling him it was over. I was scared you'd find out, but part of me was relieved. I couldn't keep living like that." I didn't respond. My hands were shaking, but not from rage anymore, from the weight of everything crashing down. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "There's something else." I looked up. "What?" Her lips quivered. "When I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't sure if it was yours." The room went silent. I felt the air leave my lungs. "You what?" I whispered. Tears spilled down her face. "I didn't plan it, Evan. I swear to God I didn't. I wanted to believe it was yours. It should be yours. But the timing, I can't be certain." I stood there staring at her, every ounce of warmth in my body turning to ice. "So you're telling me the child I've been planning a life for might not even be mine?" "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't know how to tell you." I turned away, pressing a hand to my forehead. "You should have told me the second you had doubts. You don't get to decide when I hear the truth. I was scared," she cried. "I thought if I lost you, I'd lose everything. And now I have." The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, I said, "We're doing a DNA test. After the baby's born." "No arguments." She nodded, crying harder now. "Of course." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "And Derek?" "Does he know?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He knows about the pregnancy, but not about the timing. He never asked." "Of course he didn't," I muttered. "Coward." She wiped her eyes. "Evan, please." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you the truth before it destroys us any more than it already has." I looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel anger or pity, just exhaustion. It already did. When she left that day, I didn't stop her. I didn't ask her to come back. I just stood at the window watching her drive away, wondering how something that started as love could turn into this, a wreckage of trust, guilt, and doubt. That night, I packed up the nursery. I couldn't stand looking at it anymore. Every folded onesie, every stuffed animal, it all felt like a cruel reminder of how uncertain everything was now. The next few weeks were chaos. My family found out. Her family found out. Everyone had an opinion. Some told me to leave her. Some told me to forgive her for the baby's sake. But I didn't know what forgiveness even looked like anymore. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I got a call from the hospital. It was Lila. She'd gone into early labor. I didn't even think. I just drove. When I got there, she was already in a delivery room, hooked up to monitors, terrified and crying. The doctor said she'd been under too much stress. Her body couldn't handle it anymore. She looked up when I walked in. "You came," she whispered. "I couldn't not," I said. Hours later, after a long, painful labor, our son was born. Tiny, fragile, but alive. When I held him for the first time, everything else faded. The lies, the betrayal, the doubt, none of it mattered in that moment. He was innocent, pure, blameless. But as I looked down at him, one thought refused to leave my mind. Is he mine? And the truth was, I didn't know. When they handed me the baby, I couldn't breathe. He was so small, wrapped in a soft blue blanket, his tiny fingers curling around mine. He had Lila's eyes, that same light brown, wide and calm. And for a moment I forgot about everything. The betrayal, the doubt, the ache in my chest. I just saw a child who needed me. But behind that fragile piece was the question I couldn't silence. Was he mine? Lila was still weak, pale from the delivery, but she wouldn't look at me. Every time I turned toward her, she looked away, eyes glistening. When the nurse left us alone, I gently placed the baby in the bassinet beside her and said quietly, "We'll do the test as soon as we can." She nodded without arguing. "I know." For the next few days I stayed in the hospital. Not for her, not even for us, but for him. I changed diapers, held him during feedings, whispered lullabies I didn't even know I remembered. Lila watched me, silent most of the time, as if afraid that any word she said might push me further away. When we finally went home, the silence between us felt unbearable. The house that once echoed with laughter and little plans, what color to paint the nursery, which stroller to buy, was now filled with quiet guilt. A week later, I took the DNA test kit from the kitchen counter and handed it to her. Neither of us said anything. We just followed the instructions. A few swabs, a few labels, a few moments that felt heavier than anything we'd ever done. Waiting for the results was torture. Every time I looked at the baby, our baby, my heart twisted between two realities, the one where he was mine and the one where he wasn't. On the 5th day, the email arrived. I sat at the table staring at my laptop, my hands shaking so hard I could barely type in the password. Lila sat across from me, clutching her robe. I opened the file. Read the words once. Then again. Probability of paternity, 99%. He was mine. I didn't cry. I just sat there in stunned silence. Relief and pain tangled together so tightly, I couldn't tell them apart. Lila covered her face with her hands and started sobbing. "Thank God," she whispered. "Thank God." I wanted to say something, to comfort her maybe, but the words wouldn't come. Because even though the baby was mine, I couldn't forget how close I'd come to losing everything because of her choices. In the following weeks, things settled into a strange rhythm. We lived together, but not together. I slept in the guest room. We co-parented, shared feedings, took turns waking up at night. Outwardly, it looked like teamwork. Inwardly, it was survival. Sometimes I'd catch her watching me with this broken look, like she wanted to speak but didn't know how. One night, after I'd put the baby down, she came into the living room. "Evan," she said softly, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to say this." I didn't look up. "Go ahead." "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. For lying, for cheating, for taking what we had and destroying it. I know you can't just forget what I did, but I want you to know that every day since I've hated myself for it. I was selfish and lost, and you didn't deserve any of it." Her voice cracked. "You've been kinder to me than I ever deserved. You stayed when you didn't have to. You were there for our son when I wasn't even there for you." I finally looked up. "You want to know the truth, Lila?" I stayed for him. Not for you, not for us, because he didn't ask for this. He deserves a father who's here, even if I can't be your husband anymore. She nodded, tears falling freely now. "I understand, I hope one day you can look at me and not see the worst thing I ever did. I don't hate you," I said quietly, "but I don't know if I can ever love you the same way again." That was the last real conversation we had about it. Months passed. I threw myself into fatherhood. Diapers, bottles, sleepless nights, all of it became a kind of therapy. Every smile, every laugh from my son was a reminder that something good had survived the wreckage. As for Lila, she started therapy, quit the gym, and cut off all contact with Derek. From what I heard, Derek had left town not long after the baby was born. Coward's way out. We stayed married for another year, mostly out of practicality, shared insurance, the house, the baby. But emotionally, we were over long before the papers were signed. When we finally divorced, it was calm. No screaming, no bitterness. Just a quiet acknowledgement that we'd both broken something we couldn't rebuild. She got her own place nearby, and we set up a co-parenting schedule. Some days she'd drop our son off and linger at the door, like she wanted to say more. But she never did. And I didn't ask her to, because even though I'd forgiven her on the surface, part of me would always carry the scar of what she did. Now, 2 years later, our son is healthy, loud, and full of life. He looks so much like her it hurts sometimes, but I've made peace with that, because when I look at him, I don't see betrayal anymore. I see a second chance. Lila and I are civil, friendly even. We've both grown up in different ways. She's not the same woman I married, and I'm not the same man who once believed love alone could fix anything. And maybe that's okay, because sometimes survival is its own kind of victory. I don't regret loving her, not even after everything. That love gave me my son. It taught me what trust means, what it costs to lose it, and how to rebuild from the ashes. And now, when people ask me if I'd ever take her back, I just smile and say, no, but I'll always be grateful for what she gave me.